What's the big old deal? It's your boy Mira. We back in the lab, and welcome to another episode of BTK4 World Talk. Now, for any viewers that's already been keeping up with what's been going on in the community lately, you know exactly why I titled this video this. You know exactly why. Y'all have been on one, man, I swear. And for those of you that are out of the loop, the super limit breaking Neo DLC for Sparking Zero is finally released, and instead of everyone just enjoying the new content, the community has been split into two different camps. One side says this is the best DLC Sparking Zero has received and that the $35 price tag is completely justified, and the other side says it's overpriced, that a lot of this content should have already been in the base game, and that Bondi disrespected players who bought Deluxe and Ultimate Editions at launch. And honestly, I think both sides have arguments worth discussing. Now, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I'm not gonna spend this whole video going, oh, well, W Bondi or L Bondi. No, we got enough of that as is. I just want to break down why this conversation has become such a big deal and look at both sides and give my current perspective. Now, before we get into this, I want to make this one thing clear. This is not my review of the Neo DLC. I haven't played enough of the paid content to fairly judge the new characters, the new game mode, and whether or not this entire package is even worth $35. That review is coming later. Today's episode is about the value discussion. What are people paying for? How did Bondi handle the different editions? And why is the entire community arguing? So, let's get into that. Before we debate whether the Neo DLC is worth $35, let's make sure everybody understands what each edition actually included. When Sparking Zero launched, there were 3 different versions. The standard edition was just the base game, the deluxe edition included the base game, early access, the season pass, and the season pass bonus, which allowed players to summon Shinron. The season pass itself was advertised to include the Dragon Ball Superhero and Dragon Ball Daima DLC content, bringing over 20 additional playable characters and 1 new map. And of course, we also got Shallot in between that for free. Then you had the Ultimate Edition. This included everything from Deluxe plus the Ultimate Upgrade Pack. That gave players additional customization items, the Goku Super Power Pole costume, emote voices, player card content, and the ability to summon Super Shenron. And of course, there was the Collector's Edition that came with a physical copy of the game, an exclusive diorama figure set, steelbook, and physical card extras. Here's the kicker. Deluxe and Ultimate owners were not promised every future DLC expansion that Sparking Zero would ever receive. They received what was advertised: the base game, the season pass, and the Ultimate Upgrade content. Fast forward to today, the Neo DLC releases for $35. Alongside it, Bondi introduces 2 new editions for players who don't already own the game. The Neo Edition, which includes the base game and the Neo DLC, and the Legendary Edition, which includes the base game, the original season pass content, the Ultimate Upgrade Pack, and the Neo DLC. This is where the conversation changes, because now people aren't just asking, is the Neo DLC worth $35? They're also asking, was buying the game at launch the right decision? Did early supporters get rewarded, or did new players get the better deal by waiting? And those are completely different conversations. I'll be honest, chat. As someone who bought the Deluxe Edition on day 0, looking at the Legendary Edition today does make me feel a little goofy. Because if someone is buying Sparking Zero for the first time right now, that is clearly the most complete package available. But I don't feel like I've been scammed either, and I think that's an important distinction. I knew what I was buying. I knew the season pass content I was getting. I knew that all of the maps and characters that we were getting in the Neo DLC weren't going to be present in launch before I bought the game. I was fully aware of all of this. I knew future expansions weren't guaranteed. So, while I completely understand why some launch players feel frustrated, I don't think the argument is as simple as Bondi scammed everyone. To me, the stronger argument is the new bundle provides a much better value for someone buying the game today compared to what early supporters received. Those are 2 different statements. Now, where I do think criticism is fair is customization. Customization was something that was advertised before launch, but it took a long time for players to see meaningful additions. That's an area where I think Bondi deserves the criticism. Now, I'm gonna be real with y'all. Hindsight is always gonna be 20/20. It's always going to be 2020. So yeah, knowing that the game was as unpolished as it was, as buggy as it was, as unbalanced as it was, every issue that came with Sparking Zero on the first day of launch. Of course, if I knew all of that was going to come about, I would have waited 2 whole years, 3 whole years, however long, just to get the full game that I was looking for. But at the same time, I'm not finna blame nobody for making me purchase the game. Like dead ass, bruh. As soon as the game got announced, it was already purchased for me. I didn't even have time to think about it. I didn't think about it, to tell you the truth. I found out my favorite game series was coming back, so I told myself, I'm going to be there on day 0, and the only way that I'm not going to be able to play it is if I die before this shit drops. And luckily, I live to tell the tale. And hopefully I continue to live to tell the tales. But bruh, did nobody force me to buy that game? Did nobody brainwash me? Did nobody hold me at gunpoint or none of that? I already made the purchase as soon as they announced the shit. So it's on me, man. But it's like, damn, bruh, that is a good ass price for the game. Man, I wish I would have just bought this shit a little later. But whatever, it is what it is, man. Now that we've established what everybody actually paid for, let's talk about why the community is so divided. Shout out my boy Zanny. He said, been an absolute blast. Limit Breaker Journey is great and well thought out. The characters are unique and have different movesets. The different outfits really do change how you play the character. Very nice, very well done. Finish the episode for Krillin today. It should have been free for those that bought the Ultimate Edition. It's a 10 out of 10 DLC, but I cannot in good faith justify a price tag for content clearly intended for base game. It's worth the $35, but including the $70 price tag for the main game as well, I'd say no. Not gonna lie, I don't really care how other people feel about this, but if you bought the Ultimate version or at least the other version that has the Season Pass, this DLC should be free or at least cut in half the price. There should be no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And homie didn't use the Goku Black meme. That means he's ready to squabble about that one, boy. He ain't playing around. I couldn't be happier with this DLC. I've got the End of Z Goku skin, my all-time favorite, plus all the new characters and the new mode. I'm already at SP 283, and will keep progressing tomorrow. Ultimate Edition buyers better get some kind of compensation, man. Genuinely got scammed. I'm not paying $30+ for Mighty Mask, some okay Ultimates, Chi-Chi, and more characters that should have been base game. Scam not because I'm unaware of that fact, that they already mentioned what we'd be getting for the Ultimate Pass, but because they're trying to fool us into thinking this was always DLC and not just the game being unfinished and releasing it later. We're not that dumb. Hopefully. $120, by the way. There are very clear signs that the game was unfinished, but the bootlickers are denying it. Drop it down to $10 for Ultimate Edition buyers and I'll get it. Nam and Fasha were meant to be DLC? Say that with a straight face, dog. Shit is almost 3/4 of the cost of the base game, with a bunch of characters and maps that were in the old ones. For sure a ripoff, but you have no choice if you want to play the completed version of the game. Fuck Bamco sometimes. And yes, I bought the fuck out of this. I feel bad about Sparking Zero Neo. I want to try the new stuff, sure, but I have just lost all interest in the game by this point. Not to mention I have the Ultimate Edition and this isn't a free upgrade. I don't feel like spending more money on the game. What is it about Sparking Zero that makes all basic video game consumer comprehension go out the window? The Ultimate Edition specifically stated we get the superhero and both Daima packs free, which we did. 2 years later, they come out with a new DLC that didn't exist then, so it's not included with the Ultimate Edition. That's literally how all video game DLCs have worked for years. There are a ton of better things to complain about, such as this game absolutely needing another year, but people focus on the most basic industry practice. Call me a cattle or whatever, but expecting every DLC release to be free just sounds entitled. The argument falls apart the moment you actually look at the store page and see that they revamped the Ultimate Edition to include the pack. Charging players $70 to $110 to beta test their unfinished game just to sell them stuff that's been in the file since day one is just not something you can defend. Shout out Kaizen. Do you know how common this is? Pyro Warriors 4, Xenoverse 2, and Fighters all did this, but for some reason, people hyper criticize Sparking Zero. That's not the Ult Edition. It's a new edition replacing it. Pyre Warriors 4 just did this and nobody questioned it. I have complaints too, but this narrative is odd. My two complaints are Journey Mode being pay locked and the fact that the current discount price doesn't benefit those who bought the Ult Edition. Though, I don't know how they do that without discounting a brand new expansion itself. Yes, it'd be nice if it was free, but to expect it is dumb. The Sparking Zero update pack is $35. Lamau. People already paid up to $100 and now gotta throw down $35 more for cut content? Crazy. Shout out to Texon. Actually, your heart is in the right place. However, some of this wasn't cut content. What's funny is that character IDs for some people are in the game like Super 17 and Ice. Nova is actually in this slot now, and icon modders made icons for them just in case. They actually work. The game's unceremonial release schedule definitely held these back, and Bandai Namco definitely understood the concept of releasing the rest of a package at a later date anyway. The idea of post-launch content is much more warped in their eyes than ours. I'm gonna be real, chat. This one right here confused the absolute shit out of me, and I'm still confused. So they said $30 plus tax is the Sparking Zero Neo expansion DLC. Not bad at all for content. Okay, but then literally like a day later they say this: I haven't bought the Sparking Zero Neo expansion DLC. Bandai Namco, it should have been free. I paid y'all $100 plus taxes for Sparking Zero Ultimate Edition. Y'all scammed the community by repackaging half cut off content that should have been in the game day one. Now, I haven't responded to a lot of the tweets that I'm seeing on the timeline in regards to this discussion. But this one, I'm sorry, I had to. I said, I'm curious, what changed in these 2 days, Neji? First, it was a good price. Now it's a scam. And to which they said, I grew up on BT3. Most of these characters were already in the game. I feel scant having to buy characters that should have been in the game. And as you can see from my response, that's a stark contrast in development and opinion that I don't know, bruh. Because where the fuck was that sentiment at the other day? Like, first it was a good price and now all of a sudden it's a scam. And I feel like I'm missing something and that response didn't really answer my question, but okay. This Ultimate Edition take for Sparking Zero is a clear sign of a lack of common sense. The Ultimate Edition was for year one and the first season pass in 2024. Neo is a year 2 DLC. The Ultimate Edition has nothing to do with Neo. Why do y'all think Neo should have been free? Here's what it says about the Deluxe Edition included. 3 days of early access to the game, Season Pass with 20 plus characters from Daima and Superhero DLC 1, 2, and 3, 3 days of early access to those DLCs, and 1 gift to Shinra. It didn't say, and everything that exists in the future. Slow Plays chimed in and said, it's 2026 and people still think that a Season Pass means you just get free infinite DLC for the entirety of a video game's lifespan. Someone responded with, more like I just don't think I should be punished and have to spend $150 in total just because I got Ultimate Edition on release while new players get Legendary Edition for $90 now. This is the discourse I'm seeing. No reason Neo Pack alone couldn't have been on sale. I understand what you're saying. But this is all just a specific deal to promote the DLC for newcomers. The DLC itself just released, so it's gonna be full priced. The Legendary Edition is basically full price Neo with a large discount for the base game and all the old DLC, because that shit is just old now. Stuff goes on sale all the time like this if it's old. Get what I mean? And even Rhyme chimed in and said, I'd even argue don't buy this shit right now just to see if people even play it in a week. Unless you just want the PvE solo stuff. For all we know, people will forget the game exists again next week. And to which he said, oh yeah, absolutely. people should know where they are putting their money and everything is public and out there on what is included. I'd always condone waiting for sales if you can. $35 is only worth it if you intend to play everything it offers. No need to throw money if you are not gonna get what you want out of it. Mango Spice responded with, I think that's comparing apples to oranges. It's not a simple sale, it's a repackaging of the game at a cheaper price. In any case, would it not be sensible just to discount the Neo DLC for Ultimate Edition players to match the limited sale going on for new players? Rhyme said, it would and probably shoulda, but also like if you don't buy this shit now, it'll go down later. Same principle. With that being said, I once again just say, don't buy it until you've seen enough to be like, yeah, I want it. This exact debate has now happened with every Dragon Ball game for the past decade. To those defending the price of Sparking Zero DLC, stop defending a multi-million-dollar company. It's disappointing that the DLC cost almost as much as the base game. I repeat, base game. Those of us who paid for the Ultimate Edition are left eating our own snot. I paid $267 for the collector's version of Sparking Zero, and at the moment, they're charging $35, half the price of the original game for content that should have been in the game. So in total, Sparking Zero would cost me $300 to get the complete game. Bandai scammed us with the previous DLC. It gets to a point with some of the Sparking Zero glazers on here. They're literally get mad when you give any form of criticism for the game, even if it's valid. To which, shout out to my boy D. He said, because all y'all do is cry and bitch about how the game is dead, and now for some reason care about a dead game's DLC all of a sudden. Ugh, sheesh. Shout out to Byrie. From 2005 through 2007, we paid a total of $150+ with no extra content to get the final product, which is BT3, and today, we got people demanding all future DLCs to be free just cause they got the 100+ edition. Y'all can't be real people. Listen, I like free shit too, but let's not be greedy. DBZ Skills said, motherfuckers really don't see how Sparking Zero is basically Tenkaichi 1 in the new super era of Dragon Ball Z. Now we moving on to Neo with more characters, but the same foundation of the game with quality of life changes. Next is Meteor, which completes the trilogy for Sparking Zero. People love to complain just to complain. We eating good. There's no DLC in the world, paid or free, that was going to change your mind about Sparking Zero. I also think single player modes don't move any of the people that decided to ignore the game's existence. So I'm just choosing to ignore this discourse. You felt like you lost out on money because you didn't know the kind of gamer you are. That's on you. Only will ever be on you. Sparking Zero Neo DLC wasn't the savior. It was a bonus, because DLCs are just simply bonuses. One side believes that because a lot of this content existed in Budokai Tenkaichi 3, it should have already been a part of Sparking Zero at launch. Now I understand that argument. When you're looking at a sequel to a game that had a lot of these features, it's natural to ask why those things aren't already here. But the other side argues that the game development isn't as simple as copy and paste. Sparking Zero is a new game built years later with a different development process and a different approach to content. But I'ma also be honest with y'all. Even though I just said it's not as simple as just copying and pasting everything, because they have to create the assets from the ground up, they spend a lot of their time just copy and pasting every fucking thing in this game, and it's getting really annoying. Like, look at this shit, man. I really don't get why the developers do this. I know, time constraints and Bandai telling them to do this, Bandai telling them to do that, but come the fuck on, bruh. Why do so many characters have the same grabs and animations, man? Is it really difficult for them to just go play Tenkaichi 3 and come back with whatever they find? Okay, I'm asking them to copy and paste shit from a previous game, and I'm already annoyed at the fact that they're copying and pasting stuff from this game. Fine, cool, I know that probably doesn't make sense, but at least there was some uniqueness to Tenkaichi 3 that made these characters stand out and play different compared to everyone else in the game. But now, we have this giant roster of characters that don't feel too distinguishable for the simple fact that everyone has the same animations. I really don't get it. They want to prioritize certain things over other things in this game. Like, for an example, Vegeta recently got an update to his character model, where he's now holding his Gamma Burst Flash the way that he should. Like, okay, that's cool. I appreciate y'all having a little bit of attention to detail, but you're forgetting about the other characters that need that attention to detail. What about Jiren? Jiren has not had a normal animation since the game dropped. Still, when he transforms into full power, his shirt just randomly disappears. It looks so bad and tacky, bruh. And they still haven't fixed it. Why? Y'all can fix other shit and other minor details, but for some unknown reason, y'all can't fix shit like this. I don't know, I don't get it, and I don't think I ever will. I don't want to be too unrealistic, but I really do think at some point this game needs to have an animation overhaul. And it doesn't have to be anything too crazy, but bruh, something has to give. This can't be a premium game. You can't just charge people at a premium price, but you want to do the bare minimum, and you don't want to put any real love into this game. Just saying, man. Just saying. So on one hand, I get where the Deluxe and Ultimate Edition owners are coming from. They feel like they supported the game early on, only for the new players to receive a better overall package. Then, we have other players who simply look at the amount of content included and say, if I'm getting this many characters, stages, costumes, and a new mode, then $35 is fair. And I understand why all of these opinions exist. They don't just exist in a vacuum where they're for no good reason. Both of them are very valid forms of criticism. So, where do I personally stand? Honestly, I'm conflicted. I want to give the Neo DLC a fair chance, but I also want to explain why I'm hesitant. I have played the free update that came along with the DLC, so I'm not completely blind to the changes. I've experienced the new maps, the balance adjustments, and some of the gameplay changes that were added. What I haven't played yet is the paid content, so the new characters, the new game mode, and everything else locked behind the DLC. So I'm separating those two discussions. And as far as the update itself, I'll give Bandai credit. The patch notes were decently extensive, I guess. A lot of characters received changes that affect how they function, and there was clearly effort put into improving the roster. But if you've been following me for a while, then you know what my biggest criticism of Sparking Zero has been. It has never been the roster, it has never been the graphics, and it has never been the amount of content. My biggest issue has always been the foundation. I've said before that I believe Tenkaichi 3 and Tenkaichi 2 have a deeper, more complex combat system compared to Sparking Zero. Sparking Zero is a more streamlined experience, and for me personally, that came with the cost of losing some of the mechanics and depth that made those older games special. Now, to be fair, the update does bring changes. We have things like the Chain Blast, Sparking Boost, characters have received major adjustments, but at the same time, movement is still the same. Combat is still fundamentally the same. The core experience hasn't changed drastically. And that's what I was hoping to see more of. I was hoping for new mechanics that push Sparking Zero closer to the complexity of the older games. So, while I want to give the Neo DLC a fair chance, I also don't think it's unfair to say that my biggest criticism of the base game hasn't really been addressed. So, is the Neo DLC worth $35? Right now, I don't know. And I think that's okay, because there are two separate questions. Is the DLC worth $35 based on the amount of content included, or is it worth $35 based on whether it fixes the issues people have with Sparking Zero? Those are very different answers. For some people, the amount of characters, stages, and content alone makes it worth it. For others, if the core gameplay hasn't evolved enough, the price is harder to justify, and people feel like this should have been in the game since day one. And that's why I don't want to rush my final verdict. I want to actually play the DLC, I want to experience the new content, and then I'll give my honest review. So y'all gonna have to wait for that. But now, I just want to hear from you. Do you think the Neo DLC is worth $35? Do you think this content should have been in the base game? And if you bought Deluxe or Ultimate at launch, do you feel like Bandai handled this situation fairly? Or do you think the early supporters got the short end of the stick? Let me know down below, because I genuinely want this to be a discussion. So if you enjoyed this episode of BTK4 World Talk, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out.